Hi guys, welcome to today's tutorial. Today we'll be making a gathered bust slip dress, and for this tutorial you'll be needing your pins, your tape rule, your marker, your scissors, ruler and your fabric of choice, preferably a light flowy fabric. So let's go. So the first thing we're going to do is to rule a straight line. That's going to be our shoulder line, and that is where we're going to start all our vertical measurements from. From that shoulder line, we're going to be taking our bust point measurement and our under bust measurement. Mine is 11 and a half and 14 and a half for my under bust. After doing that, you rule a straight line. You extend all of the lines like this. So now we're going to be taking our shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16, divided by 2 is 8. Then from that 8, I came down by an inch, that's 1 inch, and then I ruled a straight line like this. That is going to be my shoulder slant. So from that slanted line, I'm going to be coming down by 8 inches. And that is going to be my armhole depth. So now you have the armhole depth and the shoulder slant. So from that armhole depth, I'm going to be drawing a straight line like this. That is going to be my chest line. So now I'm extending all the lines like this. I'm labeling all of my lines, my chest line, my bust points, and then my under bust. So now here we're going to be taking our neck depth, and here I have 9 inches. You can make yours shorter than that. And then from the midpoint there, we're going to be taking 5 inches. That is going to be our neck width. We're going to measure that 5 inches all the way up to the shoulder line. And then rule a straight line like this. So from that shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 5 inches like this. And then make a straight line of half an inch just like this. So from that point, I'm going to connect it to my neck depth. I'm going to use my ruler to connect those points like this. And now that is how our neckline should look like. So now I'm going to be putting in all of my measurements. My bust measurement is 36 inches divided by 4, which is 9 inches. And I'm adding 2 inches for allowance. And I did the same for my under bust measurements, which is 30 inches. Divided by 4 will give you 7.5 inches. And I'm adding 2 inches as allowance also. Then I use my ruler to connect the points like this. So from that edge on my armhole, I'm going to be coming up by 1 inch like this. Then I'm going to connect these points just like this. You can use your French curve to do this. So now I'm just going to make a curve from that point to the other point like this. You can also use your French curve to do this so it looks steady. I'm just using another marker to highlight all the parts that I'm going to cut out. So after cutting out this part, do not throw away the rest of the pattern because we are still going to use it. Now I'm going to extend this line down to my underbust like this and then cut out my pattern. After cutting, this is what you should have. We're also going to slash that line that we extended like this. On another paper, we're going to place that pattern that we slashed and we're going to spread it to about 3 inches. You can make yours higher than 3 inches, but 3 inches is just the right measurement. So now we are going to use either pins or sellotape to secure that pattern. So now we are going to spread our pattern like this. I'm spreading mine to about 3 inches. It's going to be 3 inches wide. And then I pin it down just like this. After pinning it down, I'm just going to reshape my pattern like this. And now we cut out the new pattern. So this is what your pattern should look like. And by the time we gather it to go back to the original pattern like this. So now we are going to cut out the back bodies and we're starting with the basic block. The shoulder line, the shoulder slants, the armhole depth, and my shoulder to underbust measurement. Now I'm taking my bust measurement 9 inches plus 2 inches for allowance. Then I'm going to extend the line like this. I'm also taking my underbust measurements and adding 2 inches for allowance like this. And then I connect those points like this also. Now from that armhole depth, I'm going to be extending my line like this. And that is going to serve as our back neckline. We're not adding any armhole cycle or armhole curve. It's just going to be like that. On that point, we're going to be adding zip allowance, but we're going to be doing that when we are cutting on the main fabric about 1 inch or 2 inches highest. And now we cut out our back pattern. After cutting it out, you can choose to label it like this. So now to cut out the skirt pattern, we're going to be taking another paper, another pattern paper like this. Remember that part I said we should not throw away. We're going to place that pattern on the new pattern paper like this. We're going to sellotape it together just like this. Please watch closely. So after taping it, this is how we should look like. So now from that point, you remember that is our under bust measurement, which is 14 and a half inches. I want to take my shoulder to waist measurement, which is 16.5 inches. So we are going to be adding 2 inches extra, and that is what I'm marking like this. Then we use our ruler to connect those lines like this. That line is now going to be our waist line. So on that waistline, I'm going to be going up by 16.5 inches, just like this. And then extend my tape rule to my full length measurement, which is 48 inches, and then rule a straight line. Now from that waistline, I'm coming down by 9 inches. This is going to be my hip line, or where my hip curve starts from, which is my hip line also. And I connect those points and rule a straight line like this. Now I add in my waist measurements with extra 2 inches for allowance. I also do that for my hip measurement also. My hip measurement is 40 and I'm dividing it by 4 and then adding 2 inches for extra allowance. Now I'm going to connect these points. And then extend a line to the on the bust measurement like this. So now on my full length measurement, I'm going to be taking my hip measurement, which is 40 divided by 4, that is 10 plus 2. And I'm also going to be adding 5 inches extra because I want it to have an A shape. Now I'm going to connect that point to my hip line like this. And now I'm highlighting all the lines that I'm going to cut out with another marker. On that edge, I'm going up by 1 inch like this. I'm going to curve it like this. So now I'm going to cut out my pattern, and this is what your front pattern should look like. Now it's time to cut on the main fabric, and I'm going to fold my fabric in a triangle like this because I'm going to be cutting on bias. Please make sure you fold your triangle to the way it's going to contain your front pattern. Now I'm going to place my pattern on the main fabric and then pin it to secure it. Now I'm going to cut out my pattern, leaving half an inch allowance, just like this. Now this is how our front pattern looks like. You see how the drapes are also. To cut out the back pattern, I'm going to be removing that top piece like this, and then placing the back pattern on top of it, just like this. We're going to tape two of them together. Now I'm also going to fold my fabric in a triangle and then place my back pattern on it. Remember, we're going to leave zip allowance. Here I'm leaving 1 inch zip allowance. So we're going to make sure that space is up to 1 inch, and then we pin our pattern to the fabric and cut it out. Then you cut the fabric into just like this. This is how our back pattern should look like. It's going to be two patterns just like this. Cut out your remaining pattern on the main fabric. Remember to pin it and leave half an inch for seam allowance. I cut out two patterns each, which is one for the lining and one for the main fabric. Now I'm cutting my straps. I'm using 13 inches, but I'm going to add 1 inch for seam allowance, which is going to be 14 inches. So I'm going to mark that and then mark out 2 inches for my strap width. That is the width of my strap. I'm going to mark out 2 inches and then I cut them out. So this is how my straps look like. Now I'm going to cut out lining for my skirt pattern like this. I don't want the lining to be full, so I'm just going to cut it halfway. I did the same for the back pattern also. The lining is just going to be halfway and then I cut it out, leaving half an inch seam allowance also. So now it's time to join all of our patterns. We are going to be joining the front patterns first. So we are going to take these patterns and face the right side to the right side, just like this. And then we're going to sew a straight line from that point. After sewing, this is what you should have. Also, you're going to fold your straps and then open up the pattern like this. Then you place your strap on top of that pattern like this, and then use the other part to cover it like this. You sew that and sew a straight line like this. Do the same for the other pattern, and this is what you should have. Now we're going to sew a loose stitch or a gather stitch. I'm going to do that for the first one and the second one like that. After sewing the gather stitch, you're going to gently draw the thread like this, and I'm going to be placing the gathers. It's going to be in the middle of the pattern. So this is what you should have after gathering the fabric. Now I've already lined my skirt pattern. That after trimming off my lining, I'm going to be folding my midpoint like this and then give it a small notch just like this, not too much, just like this. Now this is how your notch should look like. Now I'm going to place that pattern on the skirt pattern like this. You can adjust the gathers so that the two patterns become equal. Do all this to the other side and then you join your patterns. So this is what it should look like after joining. It's looking pretty already. Now for our back pattern, we're going to take out 1 inch for our zip allowance, and then from that point we're going to measure 5 inches for our neck width and then mark a notch. After notching that area, we place our straps like this and join them. Also remember to fix your zip with 1 inch allowance. So now I've joined my straps and fixed my zip also, and this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to place my line in this way and sew it straight and then on the zip allowance. And this is what you should have after joining your lining. This is how it should look like. Now I'm going to top stitch the sides and then shape my dress. Make sure the sides are equal. Make sure whatever allowance you take from one side, it should be the same allowance you take from the other side. So now this is how our dress looks like. If you have any question at all, please leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to my channel. Till our next tutorial, stay jiggy. Bye.